Hi there and welcome. Oh my gosh, my webcam is not working. This little webcam. We'll have to do it with the computer's webcam. I hope you don't mind. Let's see, let's get this on. I can't really tell what it's going to look like until I get going. So there we go. I think if I stand this way, you guys can see me. That's better. Okay. Welcome to Naturally with Karen. I'm Karen. I have been on my own journey learning about medicine for 35 years, coaching people, working myself through raw foods for reversing cancer with Pamela Masters, which is in the Hippocrates tradition. And went and became an herbalist, worked and did massage for 16 years. And I would come home, and in the evening time, I would, take a diagnosis that someone had told me about, and I would research it out and do the math on it in my head, right? And eventually, with all of the decades that I had of learning so much about detoxification, I was able to put together a really cool plan. And the plan I call your order of operations. So I'm 58 this month. I'm pretty happy and thankful to be alive and vibrant and having overcome issues in my own life. I understand and overstand what it feels like to detoxify yourself. I called this particular live stream tonight Down to the Wire. And that's because you have a certain fatty substance inside of your body that's actually a lipid. And just like when you go to the doctor, if you go to the doctor, I don't for most of my life. I've gone here and there and thought maybe I was being irresponsible. And I pulled back off and went, most of the time, I don't. So if you do and you get tests for lipids like HDL or LDL, right? Low density lipoproteins and high density lipoproteins, you get your cholesterol checked or anything. The body has to have fat, your brain has to have fat, your breasts have to have fat, your organs and your glands have to have fat. But it doesn't mean that you have to go out and eat voluminous amounts of fat. In fact, you could get by just fine with a high green natural diet, including an all raw diet if you wanted to, based on your blood type, where you live, your environment, your climate, and everything else. So here's a really super cool nugget. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, bless up Pure Luminosity and Kim, my sis. But between the ages of 0 and 2, so from the time that you're born and you come out of mama, and you are birthed into the world, you begin making the fatty substance. It starts to cover all of your nervous system, your nerves, and your nerve cells are going to send, conducting impulses. So this myelin substance is comprised mostly of fat and cells, right? And it's mostly essential fatty acids, really. That's fire hitting the floor. He's so big. That's why it shakes the whole computer. So myelin is also made up out of your trace elements. I just got an email just minutes ago from a local man. He had a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack, which is a mini stroke. It's a baby stroke. It's a small one. So you're going to go out and you're probably going to be pretty high functioning, and you might not even notice a glitch in your system. But a lot of the times these are coming, and other health problems are coming from an imbalance in your trace elements, or having other trace elements, toxic elements, heavy metals in your system, and you need to get those out. But when you go to the doctor, unless you were to say that you were working in a smelting plant or you were working in a really, really toxic environment for a long time, chances are the doctor probably wouldn't say, well, we're going to give you a heavy metal test. And a serum blood test is going to give you something very, very different than something that's going to give you minimum 3 months worth of data, because hair tissue and fingernails are going to give you a longer field of data. So we're going to be able to see more of a long-term picture about what's going on. So this test that I just got back, I just called the gentleman back. He's in his 60s. And I said, hey, by the way, your patient report came in from your hair test. And I'm so thankful that you trusted me and chose to do this investment in yourself, because it turns out that he is probably the second highest in cadmium on the toxic elements ever. So, of course, my first question was, did you smoke cigarettes? Nope. Did your wife or were you around cigarette smokers? Nope. Okay. So, did you live by a smelting place? Nope. So, see, it's going to be a little process of elimination to figure out how did this happen, right? And certainly, I'm never going to state that there isn't margin for test error because there absolutely is. But anyway, it's very interesting. And since he's had a couple of health problems and felt that now he is starting to feel a little soured by the responses that he's getting from the doctors, and this is a man that has worked extremely hard and still works extremely hard every day of his life to really be an excellent provider for himself and his family and his children. So I want to be able to be the best help that I can. So while you might feel embarrassed to go to someone who's not a Western allopathic doctor, a naturopathic doctor, they're all kind of in a very similar mindset. They all speak the same language. With no offense to naturopaths, because my former mother-in-law is a PhD in naturopathy, so I saw all of her textbooks. I was living in California when she took the program. So down to the wire, one of my clients, if you're a local person in Northeast Minnesota, you may know about the very long-term multi-generational business called Hongisto's. Mr. Jim Hongisto and his wife Carol owned a business on Highway 33 that they sold, and they moved away out of state. I know where they went, and they're really happy, and I just love them both dearly. But they were both clients of mine. And at one time, Jim, Mr. Hongisto, was sitting in the treatment room, and I was explaining something about the very subject that we're going to talk about today, several years or many years ago, actually. And it came to be a conversation between the two of us because we were talking about neurological, neurons, nerve cells, impulses, conductivity, how you get signals across. We were talking about what I call neurodegeneration. So whether it's Parkinson's or rheumatoid arthritis, which is technically an autoimmune, it's still also correlated with the neurological, neurodegenerative issues. So MS, multiple sclerosis, is the big one. It's the biggie. And in fact, I've had a couple of clients recently that came to me and they said, I was just about to go through formal testing to find out if I had MS or not. And I said, well, I think maybe what we could do, if it's not a super urgent issue, is we could wait and get your hair test done. And maybe I could show you exactly what's going on. When I tested her hair, which is about a month and a half, 2 months ago, it turned out that she was extremely low in copper. And so you can't just put people on copper because they tend to kind of get nauseous in my experience. So what you have to do is I do a little protocol with my coaching clients, depending on the individual, depending on what their test says. It might be that fireworks time, so it's going to get the dogs upset. So pardon me, okay? Fire, everything's okay. I'm going to grab my book over here too. So I just want to make a quick little, plug. This is my book. It's being revised. It's called Detox and Heal Your Thyroid by Karen Pringle. And if you go to naturallywithkaren.com, you can actually click and it will be in your email within minutes and you can start reading it. It's very super, super easy to read. And it's going to take you step by step on what I would be doing with you, because 90% of my hair test results coming back are showing adrenal insufficiency and thyroid insufficiency, or deficiencies, I should say. So you want to get those glands up and functioning so that you feel better. So Mr. Hongisto and I are sitting down, and I told him, I said, what would happen? And I was using tractor language, and now I've always used this example ever since Mr. Jim Hongisto, because I wanted to make it in a language that I felt like it was really relatable to for a guy, for a man, and an elder man to myself, right? I want to be really respectful and make it fun and make it interesting. So I said, what would happen if we left one of your tractors outside in the winter and we tried to start it, and year after year, the wiring that coded, like if you were to pull out one of your outlets, the wires, the copper wires and the ground wires wouldn't just be bare, right? Unless you're hooking them right to the screw. They would actually have a coating over them. And in fact, we color coat the coating. So it might be black or white. It might be red or green or whatever on your car. The wires are coated. So I want you to think about, so this is probably like about 6 years ago now. I want you to think about myelin when we do this live stream called Down to the Wire. Think about myelin, Myelin, as the fatty substance that from the time you come out of mama, your body needs to make from about, not on the button, but 0 to 2. What if you didn't have the minerals that you were supposed to have? You might not have really coated your wires all the way. Is this why? I'm going to postulate. So many people are coming down so much younger today with neurodegenerative diseases that look like Parkinson's, but they're only in their 30s because they're calling me and they're telling me about them. And when I spoke with this woman on the phone who was going to be formally tested for MS, she actually said, I mentioned to her as I looked at her report, I said, it almost looks like you're a Parkinson's disease client. And she goes, that's exactly what I feel like. And it's exactly what the doctors were intimating to me. So low copper. So let's keep going here. Okay. So Jim Hongasto is sitting there in front of me and I'm telling him the wire story about the tractors, how if the wire coating is not enough, that it means that the connections aren't going to be made. So the wires have to be coated, otherwise eventually the vehicle's not going to start. But before the vehicle, your body does not start, certain symptoms are going to be very present, right? Your thinking is going to get really kind of slowed and kind of choppy. Because if you're going to be really low in copper, you're going to be really high or too high on a ratio of zinc. Don't let this confuse you. I mean, if I was to, kind of share with you that it took me 35 years of reading in my 20s, the Lancet, the New England Journal of Medicine, I paid for those subscriptions. Many others, which I don't need to name, but I sit every day and I read, pretty heady articles from PubMed because I realize that especially having had a legal background as a senior paralegal with a family law specialty for 18 years and in judges' chambers and working directly with Alan DiFilippo, who was the DA in Merced County, California, that I almost have to defense myself from being almost ridiculed or something because it's only that we go and submit ourselves and receive a diagnosis and let someone tell us what is wrong. And what I want to do is start learning the body. So that's what I did for all these years, was to learn my body and realize what could I do to really empower myself. And then I started empowering other people. And I had to learn a great deal for many decades, but that's what it is. So I'm going to put my glasses on here. So myelin is a lipid-rich fatty substance. It's in your central nervous system, and it's formed by glial, Glial cells. Okay, they're called oligodendrocytes, and so if you think about the fact that you've got these dendrites that come out like trees, like we talked about, I think it was yesterday in the live stream, everything has to do, I wish the light would stay consistent. There we go. Everything has to do with neurons and nerve cells and your impulses and connectivity. Okay, so these oligodendrocytes are in your peripheral nervous system. And so if you're interested, that's kind of where those are located, and they're formed by Schwann cells. If you want to look up any of this stuff, it's kind of heady. I do. You might not care to. Just follow along with me for just a little bit and entertain me, because I'm putting this out there just so people will see that I do have some substance to what I'm talking about. This came directly off Wikipedia, so it's really interesting because, like I said, I used this example with Jim many years ago. Oh, give thanks, Kim. But quote from Wikipedia, The myelinated axon, AXON, the axon, think about how much I am so intrigued by what went on with the Battle Axe clan and everything that Merlin Stone writes about as being an empowered female, meaning I can think, I can contribute to society, I can be viewed equally intelligent to a male, I can make a similar wage, right? And I want to be every bit a female. But the myelinated axon can be likened to an electrical wire. And I was like, bam, that's where it is right there. Okay, so that's Wikipedia. The myelinated axon can be likened to an electrical wire. So I started realizing this a couple decades ago that this is our vehicle. And I remember even speaking to a couple people who made it really big on YouTube and live streaming. Kim, you know who it is. I won't mention it, please. But I started sharing how, this is my vehicle and my spirit is inside of this vehicle. It's like, the house. The house is spirit, right? And so, one of the things I was doing with Anthony was teaching him, look at the number on each house. Look at what's going on with the birds, kind of like my grandmother did, when I was a little girl starting in 1965. There we go. I'm trying to stay in a good spot recently. My grandmother gave me this necklace when I turned 9. We went to the Rosicrucian Temple in San Jose next to the Rose Garden, and she got me this, and I've had to reclasp it, but I've carried it with me since I was 9. Okay, and she always told me, "You know who you are," just like grandmas do. Anyway, so the myelin is the insulating material around it. Okay, it's the sheath. Okay, so what is an axon, right? The sheath is like the axon on many neurons. The myelin is composed of many, many, many layers of plasma membrane, right? Plasma membrane. So your axon, I think we wanted to know, and I wanted to look these up and write them down, not because I didn't know them, but because I thought, what if I get kind of creative in how I explain things, and what if someone goes, well, that's not really right, so I thought, well, I'm going to kind of explain it. The axon, I learned this when we were in physiological psych in West Valley College, is a long thread-like part which impulses, okay, of the cell body. So it goes from cell body to cell. So the axon is kind of like, sending and receiving these impulses, right? It's kind of like, for me, I think of it as kind of like a tuner. So it's really interesting because some people are aware that I've spoken a great deal about the pulsing and the frequency pulsing that goes on. And in my mind, that's doing a lot of changing to our entire electrical system, okay? So I want you to think about a myelinated axon. Think of it as a nerve fiber. So when you see these trucks go around and they're going to go install, MediaCom, or what's another one, CenturyLink, AT&T, they work with fiber optics, okay? And your body is the same thing. So what I want to say is that, what I'm going to say is that from the time you're a baby, the levels of trace elements that you come in with based on your mama and her mama and her mama before have everything to do with what's going to manifest on your health, mind, and spirit along your life journey. So today, our children are coming in with extra large head circumference because of fluid accumulation. Mm-hmm. They're coming in with growth retardation or growth acceleration that's too much, impulsivity, thinking errors, right? Sexual and gender type issues, and all of these issues. Not saying they're right or wrong, not shaming, not judging anyone. What I'm saying is that we are changing before our very eyes, and it has everything to do with the stock that we're coming from and what has happened to our stock, our mothers in particular. are fathers too, right? So if you're going to be planning to have a child, or if you're any female in the world and the potential is that you're going to have a child, it's incredibly important that you love yourself enough to optimize that baby in the future, and that we have a consultation or 2 or 3 or 4, and that we really kind of do your hair test and we figure things out for you so that we make things as smooth as possible. And try to get into a good light. There we go. Okay. So one thing I want you to really take away from this is when you're getting down to the wire, your myelin, that fatty, essential fatty acid, just like when Kim was asking me about the dog, right? Kim doesn't live with dogs. I've lived with dogs for 50 some odd years, okay? Mostly big bully breeds that scare the hell out of most people, right? When Fire barks at the door, he's 165 pounds with a 31-inch neck. People are like, oh, I think I'll pick a different house, And I don't think so. Like, I don't have really furniture, so he just, you can hear his bark echoing throughout the whole house. Rottweilers have been so inbred that it would be no wonder that they don't get to live as long as they normally would, or a lot of other dogs who are living to 14 and 20 and, or so years and having a good long life. Our dogs are living much shorter, and like Kim experienced, lots and lots of hot spots and itching and scratching. They're missing essential fatty acids. And so what I like to do for people that aren't going to be real inclined to spend a lot of money is to go over to Walmart and get the big jug for $14.97 of the unrefined organic coconut oil, and have the person put a little bit on their hand and let the dog just lick it off with the tongue. If the dog needs it, or if the dog's not too sick and downtrodden feeling, the dog's usually going to lick off the coconut oil. If I really can't get him to lick off the coconut oil, I'll actually go get real grass-fed butter. And as much as I don't like to support the dairy industry, if the dog is in that critical of a situation, it is miserable to be in skin that's tight and itchy and inflamed and red and bleeding, and you're itching yourself all the time. Just imagine what that would feel like in the heat when you're a dog and you only can breathe a limited amount through your paws and everything else. It doesn't feel good. So coconut oil internally and a little coconut oil on some of the spots, right? And just try to do the best that you can to keep the environment cool, because the skin's going to be hot and the internal system's going to be hot because those are toxins, right? It's like I met a lady at the dog park not even a week ago. I was up at the Jean Duluth Dog Park, and I'm finding it more and more difficult to be at dog parks just because people are just very zinked out and they want to do what they want to do. But, her dog had some very obvious issues, and it was just morbidly obese. It was a white, big, fluffy dog, and she had a white, little, fluffy puppy, her and her son. Her son's about my son's age. And we talked for a few minutes, and I just said, well, what are you feeding? Because maybe I could give you a hand with that. And she's like, well, we feed Purina. I was like, oh, okay. I said, that's probably the problem. And I can recommend a couple of other, well, what would you feed? I said, you can feed raw meat and raw meaty bones. You can feed a plant-based diet. I can help you standing right here at the park if you want, which is what I'm always doing every day, right? I'm helping someone for free from the goodness of my heart. And she just turned her head and didn't want to have a conversation anymore. And this kind of reaction, including to maybe we shouldn't have fireworks, like maybe fireworks aren't a good idea when the air is polluted as it is, and people shutting off or calling names is not a good idea. Besides that, you never really know who you're messing with, to be honest. So copper is required. The last thing I want to share about this before we go is that when I was a little girl, I used to notice that on my mom's right foot, you're going to go, what the hell, Karen? On my mother's right foot, you had the big toe and then the toe right next to the big toe, okay? It used to kind of like just sit over it just a little bit, and it used to kind of bug me that all of her toes would lay flat, right? And then when I came back as an adult, I left at 18 with my 20 bucks that I earned at Gino's Pizza Roll Factory, working up here in Minnesota where they'd moved. 3 months before I turned 18. I was raised in California, born and raised. And that toe was kind of like this, where it was kind of like over this. Think of this as the big toe, you know, or this is the big toe, and it's kind of just over it just a little bit, like just a little, but it was just like where, and all the other toes were laying down like they were supposed to, just, with a little bit of a space. And then I had a couple clients that had that, when I started doing massage therapy and body work. I'm just going to try to move so the light stays. There we go. And so I started thinking to myself, well, what the heck is that all about? That's just really weird. And so I started reading about copper and rheumatoid arthritis, and I dug through chemistry and different books by different doctors, and I started just observing people really, really meticulously in my work. Like, you're in a room for 4 hours or 5 hours a day, and you're doing this body work. My mind is, I wonder what that's about, or why is that, or oh, I could fix this person up if only they would hear me. But they wouldn't hear me. They wouldn't often be willing to change. They were going to keep taking the blood pressure and the cholesterol medication. I wasn't telling them not to, but I was saying, I can guarantee you that if you learn this way of living, which is a plant-based diet, and get off some of these chemicals and get off the alcohol and the coffee every morning and the alcohol every night, you're going to feel tremendously better. But even in the case of some clients whose wives were taking metformin for PCOS, which is diabetes medication, which affects your liver, or other people that were taking the breast, what was that one called again, Kim? Do you remember? I just blanked on it. There's so many medications, but there was another one for the breast. Remember that if a woman has lumps in her breast, they give it to her and they want her to take it for at least 5 years. So anyway, I started looking at rheumatoid arthritis, and I started realizing, and then I had a client that I helped his wife for 9 years, and his toes were really jumbled over, so he would wear his shoes and his toes would be just really, thank you, Kim, tamoxifen, thank you. His toes would be really, have you ever seen anyone, no judgment, not cutting anybody down, trust me, I got my own stuff. I didn't come in with a perfect development, none of us did. But have you ever seen someone whose toes are like really kind of like, just kind of jumbled up? Yeah, thank you. Tamoxifen. So the toes are really, really jumbled up. And then I started to realize that was something else, just like me with not being able to breastfeed and having some of the issues that I did. My eyes are extremely photophobic, so I wouldn't normally, and I try to not wear sunglasses as much as possible because I want my eyes to be able to bathe with sunlight and enjoy that. But there's times that, man, my eyes are just really super photosensitive. So I started realizing that had everything to do with rheumatoid arthritis, and that the toes that were so jumbled up like that was someone that had difficulty with copper, whether it was all stored in the liver or what was going on. So here is the conclusion. The conclusion is, I'm not telling you to give up your doctor. I'm not telling you to stop taking medications. I'm not going to give you medical, legal, psychological, or any other kind of advice, only because I'm preempted and prohibited by law, and I know the law really well. So, but what I can do is I can tell you about my own experiences and what I've read from other doctors, and that's what I can do legally. I wish I could say I'm a powerful shaman and a medicine woman, and I'm going to help you and help you cure yourself of whatever ails you, because those symptoms are all a product of what you've been taking and eating and thinking and doing and not walking and all these different things, and take and have the most beautiful center in the world where people came and they learned to live this way that we all would love to live, that I live in great part for most of my adult life since being out on my own in my 18, right? Progressively moved into living this way. I've got a little ITAL kitchen. I'm very conservative about the things that I use and I take. I do try new products because I like to bring them, to my clients and give insights. I am resprouting my dreadlocks, so I kind of just pulled my hair back on a lovely humid day that I love. But here's the deal. If you've got the jumbled up toes, if you're thinking about getting tested for MS, if you've got symptoms and you know they're troublesome, if you're starting to wonder if you have MS, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, if you've got type 1 or type 2 insomnia, meaning you can't get to sleep at all, or you do get to sleep and you wake up lots of times in the middle of the night, you've got sleep apnea, whether it's obstructive or it's due to your eustachian tubes, whatever it is, start off with the hair test. It's called an HTMA Profile 2. All you got to do is go to naturallywithkaren.com and click on the lab testing or the shop. There's an option with a 30-minute consult that will save you some money. There's an option to just get the Profile number 2 hair test. It's all done through the mail. We're not legally able to correspond on a business level with the state of New York. I couldn't do on-demand blood testing with New York. It's not about hair testing. If you look up on Quack Watch and you find out that people go, oh, this is a bunch of crap, then I'm going to encourage you to go over to my Facebook page, Naturally with Karen, and read the official PubMed articles that I published that show that low levels of selenium, iron, zinc, and copper were always strongly correlated with cancer rates. So, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, Parkinson's disease, these diseases are not coming for no good reason. Yes, you will have to make some change. Yes, I know that there's someone listening right now because I heard today someone is going to donate money to get these things going. I heard today that someone is really thinking about that. And I want to ask you to really think from your heart that this is something that I have worked so hard and so tirelessly for. I'm not a lumineered, highlighted, striped, fake nailed, fake medium or fake shaman. I'm someone that has really paid her dues and studied and worked in the legal arena, so I know how to defend myself. I am very articulate, as well as I can relate with a large, wide, array of population. And I am just really longing to have the ability to get mobile, because I do have 3 dogs, in an RV and start giving some of these talks live instead of being prohibited by many of these different social media sites. Like Facebook has banned me from live streaming, and I'm still not able to live stream from my phone or anywhere. And so I'd like to be able to get mobile, where I'm able to help people one-on-one and save the money or get donations immediately and get going into the center, because I'm willing to work. And I mean, you will always have an open door to be able to come into that center. I will give you a full-fledged business plan. I know how to write one. I will give you an ROI, which is a return on investment, if that's what you want. And we'll sit down and hammer out some deals. And I'm not looking for a loan. I'm looking for an angel investor. I'm not looking to bring someone on and have it be their center. I've learned that partnerships sometimes can be very tedious and precarious. I am pretty set in my ways in terms of like how I see doing things, and how I'm extremely careful about the Hippocratic Oath and first do no harm. And I also know that I'm not allowed to practice medicine in the United States. So what I can offer is a place to detoxify and heal. And that's what I'm looking for. Who would tell people with those toes? Mangled toes. Not nice. I'm not sure what you mean, Kim. Mangled toes. Let me see if I can. I knew someone who would call people with those toes mangled toes. Okay. Sometimes we use words, and I think that is not nice, but sometimes we don't even think, and myself included. Sometimes I say something and then I realize, somebody else might really feel offended. Like, I'm sure in the beginning, a long time ago, if someone would have said women that are extremely small breasted, and they described it some way, I would have felt really, really incensed. I'm extremely small breasted, and I was hypophagic. I was unable to breastfeed. I'm extremely tall. I was 5'10". Now I love it, and it's fabulous. I love being small-breasted and tall, and I have extremely large hands. I'm kind of unique. On my hair test, I am very high copper. And so I need to ground myself with zinc, or I can get really too etheric. I can get, what people would call hippy dippy or spacey, or what else would they call? I don't know. But anyway, when people start going into schizophrenia, psychosis, etc., they've got a lot of extra copper usually. So if we can tone that down, it might make a world of difference for them when it comes to medications and treatments and things, because we've got people up here in group homes that are actually requesting the not nerve conduction, but the electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. Okay, ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, where they put that and they shock you. I can't believe it, because it's like been proven to do absolutely nothing. So people are actually looking to torment themselves or to reprimand themselves. Just like I was talking about, I sent you something about financial domination. There's people out there that just do all kinds of weird things. So I'm looking to make it really crystal clear, to have the ability to get mobile, to do these talks and to help out other people, and to also be able to open a center. That's what I want to do with all my heart. And so if you believe in me, like I believe in me, and I've been doing this work 35 years, I've got testimonials, go to naturallywithkaren.com. I really hope that you believe in me and that you'll help me get going. So there's actually a place where you can donate on the website. If you click on about and the pack and my food, and a place where you can donate, where it talks about what I need right now. So thank you so much. And do you have any questions? I'm hoping that a few of my clients in Washington will watch this video and that people will share it. And I didn't know what else to name it besides Down to the Wire, because I think that's really what's going on. And like I said, I came up with this analogy, and then I looked on Wikipedia and there it was. So I don't know. Did I somehow have it already, or was it, excuse me, I took my water. Or was it, was it my idea? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. She's a real, please elaborate. I got a good night's sleep last night. Oh, thank you. Okay. So if someone comes, and whether they're officially diagnosed with MS, Parkinson's, rheumatoid arthritis, there's a couple of other things. There's another disease that we don't really hear anyone being diagnosed with, and it's called Steely hair syndrome. And the hair starts to get really like steel wool, not like high ether 9 super kink hair, nappy hair, African hair, but a steely, super coarse hair, right? I'm dreadlocking my hair, so it's kind of up in like a little poofy thing. I just kind of pulled it all back. Anyway, this is what's going on. I still want to do another couple of live streams called Showtime. It's about like what we've seen and what we watch. If you could give me the biggest birthday present ever, I call it an Earth Strong or an Earth Light. July the 18th, I'm going to turn 58, and I am really looking for someone who's like a super networker who can bump me up to 1,000 subscribers so that I can use my phone and go outside to interesting locations, because YouTube changed it to where we can only sit on our laptop and live stream. And the same thing for Pure Luminosity. We need 100 so she can live stream it. Oh my gosh. So it's like you're in the game, and the rules of the game are changing as you're going around the board trying to get your $200. So more and more what's happening is you're going to see that real medicine people, real shamans and medicine people like myself, and I'm going to be that bold to say that because I've really earned it. If we were sitting down in person or through a video conference anywhere in the world and we got to know each other, you would see that my heart is true. And so thank you so much for joining me. And someone said, oh, dyslexia was due to poisoning of amalgam. Dyslexia is due to thyroid issues, and thyroid issues could have been caused by the mercury in the amalgam. Likely were. You know, you're letting loose at least 5 milligrams of mercury a day when you chew on one amalgam. I think it's higher than that, but I'm going to say 5 to be on the safe side. So yes, dyslexia is where children typically are not reading from left to right, but they're reading from right to left. They're kind of reading words as we see it as backwards. But I figured out some really, like I said, I'm only going to give 10% on my live streams, and 2 people, that's a great gift. But when you coach with me, I'm going to give you a lot more than that. And that's kind of what people do. It's not to be a teaser, but it's just like if you just throw all your pearls out there, then pretty soon people just think of you as garbage. I mean, that's the way of the world right now, sadly. But I give a lot, and I probably give a lot more than 10%, which is right. So if you have amalgams, you have mercury release, and you have a lot of bacterial release. So you're going to have bacterial infections in the body. And when I do your hair test, I'm going to be able to see the level of bacterial infections that you have in the body too. So, okay. Do you have any other questions? I don't mind. It was super sunny today, but now it looks like it's going to kind of do a little bit of a downpour. Yeah, sad and true. But the combination of what I had, I'll just see if you have one more question, Kim, because I really don't mind. I enjoy it. It helps other people too. But the things that I can bring are that I've done massage for 16 years, so you learn a lot about detoxification because people are coming in for massage that want you to manually, with your hands and your body, move their inflammation, which is their pain. Okay. They want you to move their inflammation, which is their pain. And that's what I want when I go get a massage. I've had like a kink over here on the left-hand side, which is so not me. But after the shoveling and after the family member thing that I've got going on, it seems like it's just never going to end with relapsing. And then occasionally not sleeping and stressing out, worrying and getting upset. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'd have the bags under my eyes and some of the extra weight if that was the case. But it is what it is. Okay. I can't wait to see. Oh my gosh, me too. So Kim is going to get another hair test done. Fasting can help with detox of metals. It depends on really what is going on with the person. If you've got someone who's got like a really extreme amount of mercury or cadmium, like the gentleman I just tested, I'm probably not going to recommend fasting for him because it's probably going to be too much on him. Also, if I've got someone that they've just always been a mainstream eater, they've always eaten the standard American diet, I'm probably not going to put them into fasting because they're going to get absolutely miserable, right? But what I am going to do is I taught a class through Carleton Community Education. If you guys ever want to review me, you can. 14 courses over there with when Jan Ashmore was there. She's my client now. And Carleton County Community Education and Whole Foods in Duluth, and also the Wedge in Minneapolis. I've had either talks or in the Wedge I did sampling and discussion with people. But one of the courses that I did was called Juice Feasting. And the Juice Feasting is instead of fasting, I'm going to give them lots and lots of juice. And depending on the person, I might even just put them on some really simple green salads, just so like they feel like they're still eating. And because the mind starts to play the trickery. And if that mind starts to get really, really destable, like I was just talking with someone today on the phone who said, just packing up unpacking a house was getting the person into almost a panic attack, right? Not having breakfast, oh my God, right? So instead of us ever making fun of someone, we got to recognize that there's so many different factors at play. And that's why my first step is to gather. I do it for free to you through the wellness form. If you go to naturallywithkaren.com, there's a wellness form. When you click on consultations and there's book now, or, click on the wellness form for a human or a canine. And then you can fill that all out so that before you're spending any money out of your pocket, I am reviewing everything that you have on there, okay? My neighbors are going to start, Friday night is always pizza and beer across the street. It's going to start getting louder and louder, so I thought I'd better do it right now. So fasting can really help depending on the person. If the person is, super toxic and they've been a mainstream eater, I'm probably not going to do that. And I had to learn the hard way, because I was like, oh, everybody can do this and this is going to work for everybody. And when I get on Facebook and Instagram and different places like that, there's so many people, but they didn't actually work with real human beings day in and day out, going in and out of a treatment room. It's like they didn't really see, what happens when a person ejects cysts out of the body, or a person just gets really, you don't want to push someone into where they're going to have a stroke, especially if they're over 50, maybe even lower in today's world, right? So the nuggets were between 0 and 2, your myelin forms approximately. You want to see what you get from mama. If mama's already super taxed, she's probably going to have some bleeding gums and probably going to have some problems and gain weight. She might have some postpartum. These are all going to be signs that mama wasn't functionally mineralized. And so if mama wasn't functionally mineralized, baby's going to be in deficits and in glandular distress much sooner than a child that, came from a full cup. Okay. So definitely not right. Yeah. And I know you know that too. So I'm just emphasizing it for anyone that might be watching. If you're watching, some of the folks that call me are just like, oh my God, I watch every one of your videos. It's amazing. And I get calls from a man in Georgia and different places. And it's like people from different places. But if you're just lurking and you don't click like on the video and you don't share them, or you don't, write a comment, other people go, well, nobody else is really. So there's really no social proof. And unless we have social proof, I can't really get traction, and get going and open up this center. So if you want to have a discussion with me about the center, all you have to do is text me, or, get a hold of me through my Facebook page, Naturally with Karen. Write me a comment underneath this video. Ask me to get a hold of you at your email, whatever it is. And we'll sit down and we'll discuss it, because I need the RV and I need the center, and I can't do it by myself. I need the help. I really do. So thank you so much. I appreciate all the gift of your time, and I look forward to our next one. Okay.